Hey guys, so in this video we're going to be talking about domain and range. So first example, we have a linear function. Let's review the definitions. So domain, when you say the word domain, you need to immediately be thinking of x values. When you're looking at your x values, you need to go from left to right. So domain, we start with our lowest, and remember it's the x values. So what's the lowest x value? So if we look, we're going left, 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 but there's an arrow here, which means this is going to keep going infinitely. So our lowest x value, if it's going on infinitely, is going to be negative infinity. Now, negative infinity is not a number, so we need to use a soft bracket because it's not included. Then we need to look, okay, going to the right, it's continuing. We still have x values, 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 and there's an arrow, which means it's going to keep going. So we're going from negative infinity to positive infinity. And we can't include that because infinity is not a number, so we use soft brackets. So now our range. Let's use green. So when you see range, you need to be thinking of your x values. You need to be thinking of your y values. Sorry, guys. So y values are your range. Again, you need to start with your lowest, and this is where a lot of students mess up. So if we're looking at our range, we're looking at our y values. What's the lowest y value? Well, again, because of this arrow, it's going to go down infinitely. So that means, again, we're going from negative infinity. We've got an arrow going up to positive infinity, and we're going to use soft brackets. All right, let's try a slightly harder problem. So example 2, we'll go back and start with the domain. So remember, domain are my x values. We want to start with the smallest value in the domain. So we're going to go left. Do we have x values? So our leftmost x value is at -4. Is it included? Well, since it's a filled in point, it is, so we have to use a hard bracket. Then, is it continuing? So we have x values, and we do. It continues, we have x values until we get to +4. And there's a hole, so that means we're going to use a soft bracket. Now for the range. So if we're looking at the range, we have to look at the lowest. So the lowest value is down here, right? So we're at -1, 2, 3. There is not a hole here, so we're going to use a square bracket or a hard bracket. And then -3 until when? So we have y values, we still have y values. Now even though there's a hole here, we still have y values, and we still have y values, still have y values. I'll erase it so it's a little less cluttered. Oops. But we still have y values until we get all the way up here to +4. And there isn't a hole there, so we'll use a square bracket. So our range is from -3 to +4, and it's including everything in between. When it's including everything in between, that's when we use our interval notation. Okay, so then going down, example 3. This one's tricky. So let's start with the domain, which remember, x. Okay, so when we look at our domain, we go to our lowest x value, which is here at -4. Now what's interesting is we jump to -2, and it's not going to include things in between. So I'm going to list -2 next, and then we jump again to 0. Now since I'm listing numbers, that's going to be set notation, so we use curly brackets. But we're not done, because we have another value here at +1. So what we're going to use now is union, which is a U. This union symbol means and. So our domain is -4, -2, 0, and +1. But there's a hole at +1, so we have a soft bracket. And then we have a bunch of values. It's continuing until, well, there's an arrow here, which means it's going to go on infinitely. So from 1 to infinity with a soft bracket. So I'm going to go over that real quick one more time. So domain are the x values. We start with the lowest. So we go to the left. The lowest is -4, and it jumps to -2 and jumps to 0, which means I'm going to use set notation. But that's not all that's in the domain. So we have union and. We go from 1 to infinity using soft brackets because of the hole and the arrow. So now focusing on the range. I should have used the highlighter. Okay, focus on the range, those y values. So the range, as I just said, are the y values. And we start with the lowest. So if we look down, the lowest value in the range is going to be here at -4. Apparently I liked the 4s when I made this. And that's going to be a hard bracket because there isn't a hole there. Now this is where it's interesting. So we go up, we still have y values, we still have y values, we still have y values, we still have y values. Now because of this arrow, we're going to continue to always have y values. So our range goes from -4 to +infinity with a soft bracket. So the domain is jumping and then continuous. So we use union, we list, and then we have our interval. And our range, because of this arrow, goes on infinitely, and there aren't any holes in the graph. And that's it. So hopefully if you've been confused at all with domain and range, this has helped clear it up a little bit.